Welcome to 360 Book Wisdom, your home for life-changing audiobooks. Today's book is The Game of Life and How to Play It, written by Florence Scovel Shinn and first published in 1925, a timeless guide to spiritual success.
Chapter 1, The Game. Florence Scovel Shinn opens her book with a very unusual idea. She says that life is not a battle, not something we must fight our way through, but a game. This alone sets the tone for the entire book. She is inviting the reader to relax, to step out of fear, competitiveness, or survival mode thinking, and instead view life the way a skilled player views chess or cards, something that can be mastered through understanding the rules. Shinn states very clearly that this game of life has spiritual rules, not physical ones. And she claims that these rules are found in the Bible, especially in teachings like, "Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." She uses this verse to explain the first major law of the game: whatever you give out emotionally, mentally, or physically, comes back to you. If someone gives out criticism, they will somehow attract criticism. If they give out hate, they receive hate. And if they give out love, goodwill, kindness, or blessings, those same things eventually return to them. Directly drawn from the text, if he gives hate, he will receive hate. If he gives love, he will receive love. In other words, the first chapter teaches that life reflects you back to yourself. You don't get what you want, you get what you are on the inside. The power of imagination, a core rule of the game. Shinn emphasizes that your imagination is one of the strongest forces in life. She quotes Proverbs 4 verse 23, "Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life," explaining that the heart here means the imagination and inner emotional world. Whatever picture you hold inside yourself ends up showing up in your reality. She writes that the mind is like a movie projector. If you keep visualizing disaster, illness, poverty, betrayal, or fear, then life will eventually play those scenes out. If you visualize love, abundance, healing, peace, and victory, then life will move to express that.
She gives examples in the book of people who constantly speak and imagine negative outcomes, and then they are surprised when those things happen. Her deeper point is that nothing happens randomly. Life is responding to your internal patterning. Life reflects beliefs, not wishes. Shinn clarifies something very important early in the book. The universe or God does not respond to what you want, only to what you deeply believe. A person can want love but secretly believe they are unworthy. They can want money but secretly fear poverty. They can want success but constantly imagine failure. She explains that the subconscious mind is literal and faithful. It always expresses whatever is impressed upon it, whether good or bad. You don't attract things because you desire them. You attract things because you consistently think, feel, visualize, speak, or assume them. This is why so many people work hard yet remain poor, or love deeply yet remain lonely, because the inner picture does not match the outer desire. The game has a main goal: alignment with good. Shinn argues that the ultimate point of life is to get aligned with what she calls your good, the blessings, opportunities, relationships, and expressions that are meant for you by divine design. She says every person has a perfect pattern in the spiritual world, and life becomes harmonious once we learn to cooperate with that pattern instead of resisting it with fear, negativity, or limited thinking. She explains that good is not something far away or difficult. It is already created and waiting. But a person must clear away fear, doubt, and harmful imagination to allow that good to enter. The danger of negative words. One of the most memorable lessons in the first chapter is Shinn's warning about words. She says your spoken word is like spiritual law. It releases energy that eventually manifests. The words you say repeatedly become self. The words you say repeatedly become self-fulfilling prophecies. She gives the example of a man who always said, "I always miss a car. It leaves just as I arrive." And that's exactly what kept happening. Meanwhile, his daughter always said, "I always catch a car. It comes just as I reach the station. And that's what happened for her. Each created their own law through their words, straight from the text. Each had made a separate law for himself. The lesson is, your mouth is setting the rules of your personal game. If your words are poor, your life will be poor. If your words are powerful, your life will change. Life is a game of giving and receiving. Shinn says Jesus taught that life is a game of giving and receiving. She clarifies that giving is not only material giving, your thoughts, attitudes, and emotions are also gifts. If you give joy, you receive joy. If you give fear, you receive situations that trigger more fear. The system is mathematical. You cannot give one thing and get another. But she also says that to receive blessings, you must also be open. Many people give, but then block their own good with doubt, fear, regret, or guilt. She teaches that true giving is joyful, not forced, and that it expands a person's inner sense of abundance, which naturally brings more back to them. Life responds to faith, not force. Another major theme in this chapter is Shinn's belief that life does not respond to struggle, effort, or pressure. It responds to faith, clarity, and certainty. When someone tries too hard, their very effort is a sign that they lack faith. Trying too hard pushes away the good because it assumes the good is far away. Faith draws good in because it assumes the good is already near. This is why she says many people accidentally attract the opposite of what they want. They desire something desperately, but their desperation is rooted in disbelief. The universe does not respond to begging. It responds to alignment. The need for spiritual understanding. Shinn states that you cannot win the game of life without understanding the spiritual laws governing it. Just like a chess player cannot win without knowing the rules, a human cannot master life by relying on luck, fear, or guesswork. She hints that each person has a unique path or perfect pattern, and once a person stops fighting, fearing, or forcing things, this pattern begins to unfold naturally. Harmony replaces struggle. The main message of Chapter 1. If the chapter could be reduced to one clear human-sized message, it would be this. Life works when you work with spiritual law, not against it. Your imagination, words, feelings, and expectations shape your world. Give out what you want to receive. Expect good. Speak good. Think good. And eventually, the good becomes your reality. This is the foundation of the entire book. Every chapter that follows expands these ideas into specific laws: prosperity, affirmations, karma, forgiveness, love, intuition, and more. Chapter 2, The Law of Prosperity. Florence Scovel Shinn begins this chapter with a bold and refreshing idea. Prosperity is not something we chase, it is something we align with. She explains that prosperity is a spiritual law, not a lucky event, and when a person follows certain principles, supply naturally flows into their life. Just like the law of gravity works every single time, the law of prosperity also works consistently, but only when a person thinks, speaks, and behaves in harmony with it. She says the first and most important key to prosperity is this: God is your supply. Not your job, not people, not luck, not circumstances, only God. When a person looks to people or jobs as the source, they limit their prosperity. But when they understand that God can use unlimited channels to bless them, fear reduces and faith grows. Shinn emphasizes that many people block their own wealth because they believe in lack. They talk about shortages, complain about expenses, or fear losing what they have. These thoughts make the subconscious mind produce more lack. Prosperity, she explains, is actually the result of confidence, expectation, and generosity, not fear. Man must prepare for the thing he asks for. One of the strongest messages in this chapter is that you cannot attract what you are not prepared to receive. If someone keeps saying they want money but constantly acts in fear, bargains excessively, clings to every rupee, or imagines poverty, they are preparing for lack, not prosperity. Shinn says preparation is actually an act of faith. When a person takes steps toward their desire, cleaning their house to welcome new furniture, packing bags for a trip before the ticket arrives, or making space for new opportunities. They demonstrate belief. That belief pulls the good toward them. She tells stories of people who desired good things, but whose environment or mindset was blocking it. Once they cleaned, prepared, or shifted their thinking, prosperity started to appear almost magically. Faith and the invisible supply. Shinn introduces an important idea. All good exists first in the invisible, spiritual realm, before it appears physically. Just like a seed takes time to grow underground before showing as a plant, prosperity forms first in thought, emotion, and spiritual law. So a person must believe they already have what they desire, even before they see it, because everything begins in the unseen world. When someone panics, doubts, or worries, they uproot the seed before it grows. She says this is why Jesus taught, when you pray, believe you have received. Faith is not hoping, it is expecting. Fear cancels prosperity. Shinn repeatedly insists that fear is the enemy of abundance. Fear shuts the door to supply because it focuses attention on lack, danger, and what could go wrong. The subconscious mind then continues to create circumstances that match those fears. Some people fear losing money, so they hold on too tightly. Others fear judgment, so they hide their talents. Others fear failure, so they never start anything. Each fear becomes a wall that blocks flow. Shinn says prosperity needs a mind that is calm, confident, and open, not stressed or afraid. Giving opens the channel. One of the most powerful teachings in this chapter is the relationship between giving and receiving. Not giving out of pressure, not giving out of guilt, but giving with love and trust. She says everything in the universe operates by circulation, oceans flow, winds move, seasons change, blood circulates. When a person refuses to give, their life becomes blocked, stuck, and limited. Shinn writes clearly that what we give, we eventually receive, often multiplied. If a person withholds money because they fear running out, they are declaring, money is limited, there is not enough. This belief reduces their supply even more. But when someone gives joyfully a small donation, help to someone in need, generosity to a cause, they activate the law of flow. They declare, there is abundance and more is coming. And their life begins to reflect that belief. Superconscious guidance brings prosperity. Shinn says that prosperity does not come only from hard work, it comes from right work, guided by intuition or divine direction. Many people work all day yet remain poor because they are not aligned with their gift, or they act from fear rather than inspiration. She teaches that when a person stays peaceful and listens within, they receive guidance, an idea, a plan, a connection, or an opportunity. These inner hints lead to success more easily than struggle. She describes it as letting God handle the details while you stay receptive. Obedience to inner guidance. A major block to prosperity is ignoring intuition. Sometimes the inner voice says, don't invest here, call this person, start this idea, or wait. If the person ignores it, they create unnecessary loss or delay. Shinn believes that intuition is God's method of showing us the next step. Following it creates prosperity, resisting it brings confusion. Blessing what you have. She also teaches a simple but transforming habit. Bless your money instead of complaining about it. When you bless something, you increase its good. When you curse or criticize something, you reduce its ability to grow. Thus, people should bless their current income, their wallet, their home, their business, their opportunities, their present resources. By blessing, appreciating, and thanking what already exists, they open the channel for more. Debt and the prosperity law. Shinn says most people fear debt and therefore make it worse. She suggests blessing debts and imagining them paid, rather than worrying about them. Fear of debt keeps debt alive. Faith dissolves it. She teaches the reader to declare, I give thanks that all my financial obligations are now cleared in divine order. This shifts the energy from fear to expectation. No one can take your good. A powerful teaching in this chapter is that your good cannot be taken by another person. Even if someone tries to cheat you, or if someone else gets the promotion you wanted, you still cannot lose what is spiritually yours. Shinn says God's kingdom has unlimited supply, and what is meant for you will find you. This idea removes jealousy, competition, and insecurity. It helps the person trust life more deeply. The prosperity formula. Putting all her teachings together, Shinn's prosperity formula looks like this. 1. Recognize God as the only source. 2. Stop seeing lack, expect good. 3. Prepare for what you desire. 4. Act with faith. 5. Give joyfully to keep the flow open. 6. Follow intuition. 7. Bless what you have. 8. Speak only abundance, never fear. When these are practiced consistently, prosperity becomes natural, not forced. Prosperity is a state of mind. By the end of the chapter, Shinn makes her most important point. Prosperity is not money, it is a mindset. A prosperous person feels secure, expects good, trusts life, gives generously, and speaks words of increase. Money then follows this attitude. A poor-minded person can have money but still feel unsafe, fearful, or limited, and eventually lose it because their internal pattern is scarcity. So the real goal is changing the inner pattern first. Chapter 3. The Power of the Word. Florence Scovel Shinn begins this chapter with one of the strongest claims in the entire book. Your words are creative power. She says that every word you speak shapes your life, your experiences, your relationships, and even the opportunities that come toward you. She is not talking about ordinary conversation. She means the words you say with feeling, conviction, fear, or expectation. These words act like commands to the subconscious mind and signals to the universe. Florence uses a beautiful phrase to express this idea. Your word is your wand. Meaning, your word is like a magical tool. Whatever you speak repeatedly eventually becomes your reality. This is not magic in the childish sense, but spiritual law in action. Words are forces, not sounds. Shinn explains that most people speak without awareness. They spill negative words out of habit, not realizing that each sentence carries energy. Thoughts are internal, but words are thoughts that have been released outward, and once released, they begin to form conditions. She insists that words are living vibrations. When you say, I am weak, you instruct your life to reflect weakness. When you say, nothing works out for me, life tries to match that pattern. And when you say, everything is working in my favor, life reorganizes itself to fulfill that. People believe they are describing their life, but in reality, they are creating it. The subconscious takes every word literally. Florence explains an important spiritual law. The subconscious mind does not understand jokes, exaggerations, or sarcasm. If you say, I'm always broke, even jokingly, the subconscious hears. This is your truth. Continue creating it. If you say, I can't remember anything, I'm unlucky, I'm not loved, I get sick easily, those words begin to shape the internal patterning. She teaches that people must be extremely selective in their speech because the subconscious turns words into actual experiences. Why bad things happen after negative words? Shinn says nothing in life happens suddenly. People often create their own problems long before they appear physically. A person speaks fear, anxiety, or doubt for months, and then one day something goes wrong, and they call it bad luck. But Shinn says it wasn't luck, it was seeds planted by words. She gives examples. Someone always says, I catch a cold every winter. And they do. Someone repeatedly says, people take advantage of me. And they do. Someone constantly says, I never get good opportunities. And they don't. Every negative pattern has an origin in speech. Words that heal and words that harm. Florence introduces the idea that words can act like medicine or like poison. Words of fear weaken the aura, weaken faith, and weaken the person internally. Words of power, such as courage, confidence, gratitude, and blessing, strengthen the entire being. She points out that in every religion, every culture, and every spiritual tradition, spoken words hold sacred significance. Prayer is spoken. Mantras are spoken. Blessings are spoken. Rituals rely on words. Even ancient priests used chants to influence energy. The spoken word has always been recognized as a creative force. Commands to the universe. Shinn says that when you speak with authority, not begging, not hoping, but declaring, the universe responds the way a servant responds to a master's instruction. For instance, instead of saying, "I hope things get better," you say, "Everything is now working out for my highest good." Instead of, "I'm afraid of losing money," you say, "I am secure. God is my never-ending supply." She believes that the universe obeys strong, positive statements backed by faith. Words and emotional charge. Shinn emphasizes that words mixed with emotion are the most powerful. That means, words spoken in panic manifest quickly. Words spoken in anger hurt deeply. Words spoken with love uplift powerfully. Words spoken with deep faith unlock miracles. It is not only what you say, it is how strongly you feel it. If someone says, "I'm doomed," with emotional intensity, they plant a dangerous seed. If someone says, "I am blessed," with equal intensity, they plant a seed of success. Emotion is fertilizer for words. Affirmations as tools of power. Florence does not use the modern term affirmations, but she teaches the same idea. She explains that repeated, high-quality statements reshape the subconscious. But she warns, affirmations must be believed, not mechanically repeated. Empty repetition is useless. But a statement spoken with faith, even a little faith, begins to transform life. Some affirmations she alludes to include, "I am divinely protected. I am provided for. I walk in abundance. I expect good." These replace destructive inner dialogues like, "I'm scared. Nothing works. I'm unlucky." Curses you give yourself without realizing. Shinn teaches that most people accidentally curse themselves without knowing it. How? By saying things like, "I'm so stupid. I'll never get out of debt. That always happens to me. I can't afford anything. I hate my life." She urges the reader to treat words like ingredients added to a recipe. If you add poison, the dish becomes deadly no matter how much sugar you add afterward. So negative words should be eliminated. Words create atmospheres. Florence explains that every person has a mental atmosphere, an invisible cloud of energy created by their words and beliefs. This atmosphere attracts experiences. A person who constantly says, "I don't trust people," creates an atmosphere where betrayal shows up. A person who says, "I am divinely guided," creates an atmosphere where the right people enter their life. Your atmosphere is like a magnet. It pulls in whatever matches your spoken assumptions. Blessing through words. A beautiful part of this chapter is when Shinn encourages people to bless their life with words, because blessings multiply good things. Bless your work. Bless your finances. Bless your relationships. Bless your home. Bless your body. Bless your day before it starts. She says blessings create a path of ease and protection, reversing harmful words. Shinn does not believe anyone is doomed by their past statements. She teaches that new words can undo the effects of old ones. If you have spoken fear, you can speak faith. If you have spoken lack, you can speak abundance. If you have spoken doubt, you can speak confidence. She says, speak the word for what you want, not what you fear. The moment you start speaking differently, life begins to reorganize itself. The main message of Chapter 3. If one message summarizes the entire chapter, it is this: your life is following the trail of your words. Change your words, and your life must change. Chapter 4. The Law of Non-Resistance. Florence Scovel Shinn begins this chapter by introducing a spiritual principle that seems simple on the surface, but is extremely powerful in practice: the law of non-resistance. She explains that life becomes smoother, easier, and more harmonious when a person stops fighting, pushing, resisting, forcing, or struggling against conditions. Instead, the person must learn to move with life rather than against it. She beautifully summarizes the essence of the chapter by quoting Jesus, "Resist not evil." She clarifies that this does not mean accepting injustice, allowing abuse, or being passive. Instead, it means not feeding negative situations with fear, anger, or emotional resistance. When a person reacts aggressively to difficulties, they give those difficulties more energy and power. When they remain calm, centered, and spiritually aligned, the problem loses its influence. Resistance creates more problems. Florence uses a metaphor. When you push against something, it pushes back. This is true physically and spiritually. If someone constantly speaks about their problems, fights circumstances, or internally argues with reality, they increase the very conditions they want to remove. For example, a person who hates their job creates more tension at work. A person who fears disease becomes more sensitive to illness. A person who fights lack creates more lack. A person who argues with others invites more conflict. Shinn teaches that the universe mirrors your internal state, and resistance is an emotional signal of fear and lack. What you fear, you attract. What you fight, you strengthen. This is why the law of non-resistance is so important. When you stop resisting, you stop feeding the negative. Turning the other cheek, spiritually explained. Shinn provides one of her clearest explanations in this chapter. She says that when Jesus said, "Turn the other cheek," he did not mean allowing people to hit you. He meant to turn away from the problem mentally, emotionally, and spiritually and face the good. In other words, don't stare at the difficulty, stare at the solution. Don't meditate on the obstacle, meditate on the desired outcome. Don't empower the negative, shift attention to the positive. This shift breaks the energy of the problem because the subconscious mind responds to the dominant picture. If the dominant picture is fear, the fear grows. If the dominant picture is faith, the problem dissolves. I feel no resistance to this situation. Florence gives the powerful affirmation, "I feel no resistance to this situation." She even explains that this is the basis of the law of non-resistance, directly from your file. This is the basis of the law of non-resistance. I feel no resistance to this situation. This statement releases tension and allows spiritual law to work. The moment a person stops tensing, stressing, or fearing, the energy of the situation begins to shift. Solutions that were blocked now appear. It's like unclenching your hand. Once relaxed, you're able to receive something new. The boomerang effect of force. Shinn says something profound. Whatever you force will force back against you. If you try to force a relationship, it runs away. If you try to force success, you experience delay. If you try to force money, you push abundance away. If you try to force others to behave how you want, they resist you. She states that force comes from fear, but non-resistance comes from faith. A confident person knows things will work out. A fearful person tries to control everything. The universe responds to inner vibrations, not external effort. Demonstrations come easily when you are relaxed. Florence uses the phrase demonstration to describe answered prayers, manifestations, and desires fulfilled. She explains that demonstrations happen when you are calm, surrendered, and trusting, not when you are anxious and trying too hard. She says that the moment a person relaxes and stops resisting, the divine plan rushes in. But most people delay their good because they are constantly tightening their hearts with fear, anger, or doubt. Shinn writes that miracles and breakthroughs cannot enter a mind that is full of tension. The mind must be open, peaceful, and receptive. Examples of non-resistance in daily life. Throughout this chapter, Shinn gives practical examples of how non-resistance can work. 1. When dealing with difficult people. Instead of fighting fire with fire, she teaches to respond with calmness and blessing. This neutralizes hostility and often transforms the behavior of the other person. 2. When facing delays or disappointments. Instead of getting irritated, she says to relax and say, "Infinite intelligence is arranging everything for my highest good." This shifts energy from frustration to faith, often causing sudden improvement. 3. When money seems tight. Instead of resisting by worrying or panicking, she advises to remain calm, bless what you have, and trust the flow. This attitude attracts supply instead of blocking it. 4. When opportunities close. Rather than resisting reality or clinging to what is gone, Shinn urges embracing change. Something better is on the way. This belief opens new doors. Resistance is fear wearing a mask. Shinn goes deeper and explains the psychology behind resistance. Resistance is simply fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of change, fear of judgment, fear of uncertainty. But fear closes doors, faith opens them. A fearful person meets life with tension. A faithful person moves through life with fluidity. Once fear is removed, resistance melts and spiritual law unfolds beautifully. Non-resistance is not weakness, it is power. Florence wants readers to understand that non-resistance is not submission or weakness. It is actually the strongest position a human can take. When you are non-resistant, you cannot be manipulated. You cannot be provoked. You cannot be drained by negativity. You cannot be dominated by circumstances. You cannot be trapped in fear. Non-resistance is inner calm and unshakable trust, not passivity. She describes it as being like water, flexible, calm, but powerful enough to shape mountains. How to practice non-resistance. Shinn gives practical steps. 1. Withdraw emotional energy from the problem. Stop feeding it with fear, complaining, or overthinking. 2. Speak words of faith instead of fear. Declare things like, "I am calm and confident. I feel no resistance. Everything flows to me in perfect timing." 3. Bless the situation. Blessing removes heaviness from the energy. 4. Accept what is happening without panic. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means not fighting life. 5. Trust that a higher good is unfolding. This mindset transforms experiences from painful to purposeful. The main message of Chapter 4. If the entire chapter could be distilled into one simple, human-friendly truth, it is this. Stop fighting life. Flow with it. The moment you release resistance, your good flows toward you effortlessly. Florence teaches that every problem becomes easier when you stop struggling, when you stop reacting emotionally, and when you simply trust the divine plan. Non-resistance is the key to harmony, clarity, and peace, the mental state where solutions naturally appear. Chapter 5. The Law of Karma and the Law of Forgiveness. Chapter 5 is one of Florence Scovel Shinn's most powerful and eye-opening chapters. Here, she explains two spiritual forces that shape a person's life, karma and forgiveness. She describes how the law of karma governs the return of thoughts, words, and actions, like a boomerang, and how the law of forgiveness can erase negative results and free a person from past mistakes. She starts the chapter with a simple but unforgettable line. The game of life is a game of boomerangs. Whatever you send out, good or bad, returns to you eventually. This is the essence of karma. Karma isn't punishment. Karma is simply cause and effect. If someone sends out jealousy, criticism, dishonesty, or fear, those same things return. If they send out generosity, love, kindness, and confidence, those return as well. The boomerang principle, your words always come back. Florence uses the story of a woman who said that whenever she argued with her aunt, the exact same words she used would boomerang back at her through someone else. Her own experience showed her that words never disappear. They circulate and return in some form. Shinn uses this example to show how dangerous careless speech is. When people speak in anger, gossip, criticism, or fear, they plant seeds that must eventually grow. She also explains that karma applies to thoughts and feelings because the subconscious mind absorbs everything and produces results in real life. A woman attracts a counterfeit bill, karma in action. One of the strongest illustrations in the chapter is the story about the lady who received a counterfeit $20 bill from the bank. She was upset because she believed the bank would never admit their mistake. But Florence asked her to think deeply about what she had done recently. The woman suddenly remembered that earlier she had mailed fake stage money to a friend as a joke. And that was exactly what came back to her. This is pure karma. What you give out, even in play, returns. Florence explains that these jokes are not harmless. The subconscious takes them very seriously and responds accordingly. But here comes the turning point in the chapter. Karma is not the final law. Forgiveness neutralizes karma. Florence teaches that Jesus Christ introduced a law higher than karma, the law of grace or the law of forgiveness. This law can wipe out negative seeds from the past so their effects never return. She writes, Christ has redeemed us from the curse of the karmic law. This does not mean religious forgiveness only. She means spiritual forgiveness, releasing resentment, letting go of guilt, dissolving fear, correcting mistakes in consciousness. Forgiveness is an energetic reset. She uses the counterfeit bill story to demonstrate this. She guides the woman to declare, Infinite Spirit, we call on the law of forgiveness. She is under grace and not under law. When the woman returned to the bank with confidence, the clerk apologized and gave her a new bill. This is Shinn's way of showing that forgiveness can neutralize the situation. You cannot manifest good while carrying old karma. Florence emphasizes that no one can escape the results of their thoughts. If someone desires abundance, they must be abundant in consciousness first. They must think rich, speak rich, and feel rich because lack thinking produces lack. She gives a practical example. A woman wanted prosperity, but lived in a messy, disorganized home. Florence told her, Order is heaven's first law. Meaning, a chaotic environment signals chaotic consciousness. When the woman cleaned her home and created order, she soon received a financial gift. This story shows that karma isn't always negative. Positive actions also return quickly. Karmic debt through personal will. One of the strongest stories in the chapter is about a woman who desperately wanted a house that belonged to another man. She mentally pictured herself living in it. Eventually, the man died, and she got the house. But later, her husband, whom she deeply loved, died, and the house became a burden. Florence explains this as karma. The woman forcefully claimed something not meant for her. Her mental picture was so strong that everything cleared out of her way. But she paid a karmic debt when she lost something precious in return. Shinn clarifies that this could not have happened if the people involved were living strong spiritual lives, but because they were under karmic law, the situation unfolded accordingly. This story teaches a powerful lesson. You cannot force your will in life without consequences. Letting go of control breaks negative karma. Florence continues by teaching that whenever someone tries to dominate or force others, they activate karmic backlash. Controlling others is rooted in fear, and fear creates negative outcomes. She shares the example of a mother who was terrified because her daughter wanted to take a dangerous trip. The mother argued, begged, and insisted, only making the daughter more rebellious. Florence told her to surrender the situation and declare, I put this situation in the hands of infinite love and wisdom. If the trip was right, it would happen under grace. If wrong, it would dissolve. A few days later, the daughter calmly said she had changed her mind. The situation disappeared into native nothingness. This is Florence's way of saying, releasing resistance dissolves karma. Giving and receiving karmic balance. Part of karma is the balance between giving and receiving. Florence warns that people who refuse gifts or help often block their own prosperity. She gives the example of a woman who had given away much money over the years. When someone later offered her a large financial gift, she refused it. Soon after, she found herself in debt for the exact same amount. Her refusal blocked the natural return of her generosity. The law says, "What you give must return if you are willing to receive." Why some are born rich and others poor. Florence touches on a sensitive issue, why people are born into different conditions. She explains that reincarnation plays a role. People return to settle unresolved karma, fulfill destiny, or learn lessons. A person born rich had previously pictured abundance. A person born poor had previously lived in fear or limitation. These are Florence's metaphysical teachings, not scientific views. The point is, your subconscious beliefs, past or present, shape your life conditions. Forgiveness ends the cycle. The most important teaching in this chapter is that forgiveness breaks the chain of cause and effect. Without forgiveness, people simply repeat patterns created by old fears, resentments, or mistakes. Florence says that forgiveness is a spiritual eraser that wipes away the results of wrong thinking. It restores innocence to the subconscious. It neutralizes the negative seeds before they sprout. This is why she encourages affirmations like, "I am under grace and not under law," meaning, you are no longer controlled by past causes. Grace sets you free. The heart of Chapter 5. If we compress the entire chapter into a human, natural message, life gives back what you give out. Every thought, feeling, and word returns to you in some form. But forgiveness is stronger than karma. Letting go, blessing others, and correcting your inner beliefs can erase negative results. You attract good when your mind is filled with good. You attract trouble when your mind is filled with fear, resentment, or force. Grace is available at any moment. The moment you forgive, release, and trust a higher power, your past loses its hold. Chapter 6. Casting the Burden, Impressing the Subconscious. Chapter 6 is one of the most practical and life-changing chapters in the entire book. Florence Scovel Shinn explains a spiritual process she calls casting the burden, a method of releasing worries, fears, stress, or impossible problems out of the human mind and handing them over to divine intelligence, God, infinite spirit, higher power. She teaches that carrying burdens is the root cause of sickness, depression, confusion, and failure. When you release the burden, life begins to open again. The chapter begins with Florence explaining something very important. There are two levels of mind, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. She says the conscious mind, your everyday thinking mind, is weak, fearful, limited, and easily stressed. It tries to force solutions, which only creates more problems. But the subconscious mind is powerful, obedient, and creative. Whatever it receives as truth, it produces in reality. The problem is, most people impress fear, worry, doubt, and struggle into the subconscious, not faith and confidence. So their life becomes heavy, stressful, and full of obstacles. This chapter teaches how to reverse that. What does casting the burden mean? Shinn uses a very spiritual but simple explanation. She says that humans were never meant to carry mental burdens. Worry, stress, fear, guilt, anger, overthinking, these things drain energy and block blessings. She quotes scripture, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Her interpretation: humans must hand their burdens over to God, infinite intelligence, because only God knows the perfect solution. So, casting the burden means, stop trying to fix everything by force. Stop mentally struggling. Stop holding stress in your body. Stop worrying about outcomes. Stop overstimulating the subconscious with fear. Instead, pass the burden upward to divine wisdom. Florence says the moment you cast the burden, your mind becomes light and the subconscious is free to accept new, positive commands. This is the beginning of impressing the subconscious with good. The subconscious works only with what you give it. Shinn teaches that the subconscious cannot argue. It accepts whatever you tell it with feeling. If you give it fear, it produces fear. If you give it doubt, it produces delay. If you give it stress, it produces complications. If you give it faith, it produces solutions. If you give it peace, it produces harmony. So if a person worries all day and repeats negative ideas, the subconscious obeys those commands like a loyal servant, even though they harm the person. To cast the burden is to stop feeding the subconscious negative instructions and instead give it new, peaceful ones. Perfect ideas come to me through my released mind. One powerful line in this chapter, directly from your file. The burden is wiped out by casting the burden. This is done by handling the situation on the spiritual plane. Florence explains that every problem has a spiritual solution, meaning a higher solution, a solution that comes from wisdom, not fear. But that solution cannot reach you when your mind is blocked with anxiety. So she teaches a simple but profound practice. Whenever you feel stressed or stuck, say, I release this situation to divine intelligence. I cast the burden. I am free. When you do this sincerely, your subconscious stops resisting and opens to guidance. Suddenly, you know what to do. Or the problem dissolves on its own. Or help arrives unexpectedly. She says the mind becomes like a clear channel through which perfect ideas can flow. Your burden can be fear, money problems, people, illness, regret, anything. Shinn lists many kinds of burdens people carry. Burden of fear. Burden of financial stress. Burden of other people. Burden of the past. Burden of shame or guilt. Burden of a desire that feels impossible. Burden of a relationship problem. Burden of over-responsibility. She writes that none of these burdens belong to the human mind. They must be lifted to a higher power. She clarifies. Casting the burden does not mean ignoring problems. It means recognizing that God knows the way, even when you don't. The physical effect of casting the burden. Florence often connects spiritual law to health. She says that many diseases appear because people carry emotional pressure inside the body. Fear tightens the nerves. Worry attacks the stomach. Anger affects the liver. Stress affects the heart. When a burden is cast off, the body relaxes. Energy flows again. Healing begins. She insists. Relief begins the moment you release control. The moment you say, this is not my burden, your entire being shifts. The law of substitution. One of the most practical tools Florence teaches in this chapter is the law of substitution. She says, the subconscious cannot hold two ideas at the same time. So if you insert a higher thought, the lower thought must leave. Example. Instead of thinking, I am worried about money, you replace it with, God is my supply. All is well. The new idea pushes out the old one. This is how you impress the subconscious with good ideas instead of fearful ones. Casting the burden removes fear, and fear is the real enemy. Shinn repeats throughout the chapter that fear is the root cause of all problems. Not the problem itself, but fear of the problem. When a person casts the burden, fear dissolves. And once fear dissolves, the path becomes clear and solutions appear effortlessly. She says that fear short-circuits spiritual law, while faith activates it. Examples from the chapter. Florence includes stories to demonstrate how casting the burden works in real life. 1. A woman afraid of her husband's behavior. A woman lived under constant fear of her husband's anger and mood swings. Shinn told her, cast the burden of this man on the Christ within him. I am not responsible. God is responsible. Within days, the man's behavior shifted. He became calmer and kinder. Florence explains, you cannot change people by force or fear, but when you cast the burden, divine wisdom works through them. 2. A woman afraid of financial ruin. Another woman was deeply afraid of losing her home. Florence taught her to say, I cast the burden of lack. God is my immediate supply. Soon afterward, unexpected money arrived, and her situation reversed. The financial problem dissolved when the fear was removed. 3. A man unable to sleep due to anxiety. A businessman was unable to sleep for months because he carried the burden of his company. Florence told him to speak these words every night before sleep. God is managing all my affairs. I release every concern. He slept peacefully the same night. Shinn's belief is that when he released control, divine mind took over. Why it works, the spiritual logic. Florence believes the following. The human mind is limited. God, infinite intelligence, is unlimited. Problems solve themselves when you stop trying to solve them with limited understanding. You are not meant to suffer or force solutions. You are meant to cooperate with a higher power. She compares the human mind to a small cup. You cannot solve big problems using a small cup, but you can give the cup to the ocean. Casting the burden connects you to this ocean of divine intelligence. Science. Once the burden is cast, the subconscious becomes open and receptive. This is the perfect moment to impress it with new ideas. Florence teaches that the subconscious is like fertile soil. It will grow whatever you plant. So plant faith, peace, and success, not fear, stress, or doubt. When a burden is gone, new seeds of good can grow. The core message of Chapter 6. If we reduce the entire chapter to one simple, living truth, your life becomes easy the moment you stop carrying everything alone. Give your fears to God. Let the divine handle what you cannot. Then speak new words of peace into your subconscious. This is how miracles begin. Chapter 7. Love. Florence Scovel Shinn teaches that every human being is undergoing an initiation in love, and that love is not merely an emotion, but a spiritual law fundamental to the entire game of life. She begins with a reminder that Christ's commandment was simple and universal: love one another. She expands this by quoting Ouspensky, who described love as a cosmic phenomenon, suggesting that true love opens a person to higher, fourth-dimensional realities, experiences of deeper spiritual awareness and intuition. Shinn emphasizes that real love is selfless, free from fear, control, or demand. It pours itself out without expectations. Its joy lies simply in giving. Genuine love, she says, is a spiritual force, the strongest magnetic force in the universe, and because of this divine nature, real love draws to itself the right relationships and situations without manipulation or striving. However, Shinn acknowledges that very few people truly understand love. Most people approach relationships with fear, jealousy, or selfishness, which inevitably destroys the harmony they seek. When a person becomes fearful or possessive, they begin imagining potential loss or betrayal. According to Shinn, imagination is creative, and whatever is feared or mentally rehearsed eventually becomes reality if not neutralized. She illustrates this with the example of a woman whose lover left her due to her fears and jealousy, which created the very circumstances she dreaded. A major theme in the chapter is that negative emotions, especially jealousy and resentment, are powerful forces that can manifest illness, conflict, and suffering. Shinn frequently connects emotional disharmony with physical consequences. For example, she recounts the case of a woman with a skin disease that doctors considered incurable. This woman later discovered that the disease was rooted in resentment and hatred she held toward a jealous coworker who had caused her dismissal. When the woman sincerely worked in silence to release her hatred and cultivate peace, she was completely healed within days. Shinn presents this as proof that love is the fulfilling of the law, and that healing physical, emotional, and spiritual comes from aligning oneself with love. Shinn continues by asserting that all unhappiness and disease arise from violating the law of love. Hate, criticism, and resentment return to the individual like boomerangs, bringing misery back into their lives. She teaches that love must be restored and practiced intentionally, especially because the contemporary world seems to have lost the art of genuine love. She describes working with a student who came to her monthly to dissolve deep resentment toward one woman. The resentment was so entrenched that it took months of effort, but gradually, through consistent spiritual practice and the cultivation of goodwill, the student reached a point where resentment dissolved completely. The result was a profound sense of inner peace. Love in relationships. A significant portion of the chapter focuses on romantic and interpersonal relationships. Through multiple case studies, Shinn illustrates that love must be grounded in spiritual recognition, not emotional dependency. She frequently uses the phrase, "salute the divinity in him, her," as a practical tool. This means choosing to see others not through the lens of their personality flaws, but through their ideal, divine nature. One story describes a woman who suffered under the unkindness of a man she loved. Shinn taught her to affirm daily, "I see your divine self only. I see you as God sees you." As the woman trained her mind away from resentment and towards spiritual love, she became inwardly calm. In that state of emotional non-attachment and unconditional goodwill, circumstances changed dramatically. The man proposed to her, and they married shortly after. Shinn interprets this not as manipulation, but as the reality that relationships shift when one stops radiating fear, anger, or neediness and instead becomes a complete circle, emotionally whole within oneself. She teaches that when we no longer depend on someone else to complete us or validate us, we attract true love or its appropriate equivalent. Love in the workplace. Shinn also applies the principle of love to business relationships. She argues that goodwill is a powerful tool for success, protection, and harmony. For example, she tells of a woman who despised her critical employer. Shinn instructed her to salute the divinity in the woman instead of resenting her. Within a week, the employer's attitude changed entirely. She became warm, friendly, and even invited the woman out in her car. Shinn explains that people respond to the vibrations we send out, and that sending goodwill transforms relationships and situations. Another principle she teaches is that holding remorse or guilt about past wrongs creates destructive emotional states. If a mistake cannot be corrected directly, Shinn advises that doing a kindness for someone else in the present neutralizes the lingering emotional burden. This prevents the buildup of sorrow and regret, which she warns can weaken the body and poison the atmosphere of one's life. Love as protection. Shinn expands the concept of love beyond interpersonal harmony into spiritual protection. She affirms that a person surrounded by love and goodwill creates a protective aura that repels harm. She cites scripture, "There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling." She insists that fear invites danger, while perfect love casts out fear. A story is given of a woman who affirmed divine protection for her brother. Shortly afterward, he miraculously survived a mine explosion. Shinn interprets this as the power of loving thought. Love as a transformative force. Shinn teaches that love is not passive. It is a force that dissolves resentment, heals the body, repairs relationships, and attracts blessings. She repeatedly emphasizes that anything lacking love, whether illness, misfortune, scarcity, or broken relationships, can be corrected by realigning oneself with the law of love. She warns that many physical ailments, such as rheumatism, growths, hardened arteries, or poor eyesight, stem from unresolved emotional states like criticism, jealousy, hatred, and unforgiveness. She suggests that emotional disharmony literally imprints onto the body and circumstances. The solution is not medical intervention alone, but emotional and spiritual purification through love. Love as the foundation of all spiritual law. Toward the end of the chapter, Shinn emphasizes that love is the highest rule of the game of life. Without love, she says, even spiritual knowledge becomes useless, sounding brass and tinkling cymbals. Love, she argues, harmonizes, protects, heals, multiplies, and elevates. It dissolves fear and reveals divine order. Shinn concludes that man is his brother's keeper in thought. Whatever a person genuinely loves is spiritually protected, and whatever one fears or resents is harmed. Through love, one aligns with divine mind and fulfills the law that governs all spiritual demonstration. In her view, if every person practiced unconditional love toward friends, enemies, strangers, animals, and even themselves, they would step naturally into higher consciousness and experience a life of harmony, health, success, and joy. Chapter 8. Intuition or Guidance. In Chapter 8, Intuition or Guidance, Florence Scovel Shinn explains that every person has access to a deep inner voice, intuition, which she describes as the superconscious guidance of divine mind. According to Shinn, intuition is not a vague feeling or guesswork, but a crystal-clear spiritual instruction that, when obeyed, leads a person toward harmony, safety, and their highest good. She views intuition as man's direct link to God, the still, small voice that knows the right path even when logic or appearances suggest otherwise. Shinn asserts that most people make decisions either through reason, the intellect, or through impulse, emotion, but neither is trustworthy. Reason is limited because it is based only on past experience and visible conditions. Emotion is unreliable because it is clouded by personal desires, fears, or fantasies. The only infallible guide is intuition, what she calls the magical path. This inner direction comes quietly and calmly, without argument or pressure, and always points toward the highest good of everyone involved. How intuition speaks. Shinn emphasizes repeatedly that intuition does not shout, it whispers. It may appear as an inner knowing, a sudden clarity, a nudge, or even a physical sensation such as discomfort when one is about to make the wrong choice. When a person is in fear or agitation, intuition becomes clouded. This is why Shinn advises people to enter a state of calm, sometimes through affirmations like, "I am always in my right place, doing my right work, with my right people." This mental stillness allows intuitive guidance to come through clearly. A key idea is that intuition always leads toward harmony. If a voice inside urges a person to act out of fear, resentment, anxiety, or desperation, that is not intuition. Intuition is peaceful, direct, and aligned with truth. Following guidance improves all areas of life. Shinn gives examples showing that intuitive guidance applies to relationships, health, safety, and especially business decisions. In one story, she describes a woman who repeatedly failed to sell her home because she relied on logic and fear-driven decisions. When the woman finally quieted her mind and listened, she received guidance to release her anxiety and bless the situation. Shortly afterward, the perfect buyer appeared. The sale went smoothly once the woman acted from intuitive alignment rather than pressure. Shinn stresses that intuition is practical. It is not mystical in the sense of being unreal. Rather, it is a higher form of intelligence that sees beyond the limitations of the conscious mind. Intuition as protection. Many of Shinn's most striking examples involve protection through intuition. One of her core beliefs is that intuition can keep a person safe from harm, physically, emotionally, and financially if they listen to it. She shares the instance of an individual who felt a sudden, strong inner direction not to board a particular train. The person obeyed instinctively, even though the reasoning made no sense. Later, they learned that the train had been involved in a dangerous accident. Shinn interprets this as divine mind guiding the individual away from harm. In her worldview, ignoring intuition is like stepping out of a protective circle. Fear pushes people into danger by urging them to act prematurely or impulsively. Intuition, on the other hand, slows a person down and creates clarity. The importance of obedience. Shinn is careful to stress that recognizing intuition is not enough. One must obey it. This is one of the chapter's major points. Guidance does no good if a person argues with it, dismisses it, or delays action. She gives the example of a student who felt strongly guided not to sign a particular business contract. The student's intellect argued that the deal looked favorable, but the intuitive discomfort continued. When the student ignored it and proceeded anyway, the business relationship turned out to be disastrous. Later, the student admitted that she knew inside that she should not have agreed. This story reinforces a central argument of the chapter. Whenever a person disobeys intuition, they step out of alignment with divine protection and harmony, clearing fear and confusion. Because intuition only speaks clearly in a calm mind, Shinn teaches methods for dissolving fear and mental noise. One of her common techniques is the use of affirmations to push aside worry, such as, "Infinite Spirit, open the way for my immediate supply." This practice clears the emotional fog that prevents intuitive guidance from being heard. She notes that people often mistake desire for intuition. Desire pushes, intuition leads. Desire is noisy, intuition is quiet. Desire comes with tension, intuition brings peace. To stay aligned with intuition, Shinn encourages individuals to stay spiritually centered, practice forgiveness, and maintain mental clarity. Intuition in everyday decisions. Shinn makes clear that intuition is not just for major life choices. It can guide everyday actions, such as travel routes, purchases, conversations, and job decisions. She recounts the story of a man who needed to call on certain clients, but felt intuitively guided to visit them in a different order than planned. By following that inner nudge, he met a business contact at the perfect moment and secured a valuable opportunity that would not have been available if he had followed his original schedule. Shinn uses this to show that intuition sees what the human mind cannot: timing, unseen connections, and hidden opportunities. Her view is that intuition organizes life more efficiently than the intellect ever could. The superconscious versus the intellect. A major philosophical theme in the chapter is the distinction between the superconscious mind, which gives intuitive guidance, and the intellect, which analyzes and argues. To Shinn, the intellect is like a limited accountant, useful for checking figures, but blind to larger possibilities. The superconscious mind is connected to infinite intelligence and therefore sees the entire field. This is why she insists that a person should always consult intuition first and use reason afterward only to implement intuitive instruction. She calls intuition the most important thing in life because it is the direct voice of God within, removing interference, fear, self-will, and human will. 3 forces interfere strongly with intuition. 1. Fear. 2. Self-will, forcing outcomes. 3. Human will imposed on others. Shinn writes that fear blocks intuitive messages because it fills the mind with noise and chaos. Self-will pushes a person into misaligned actions. And forcing one's will onto others creates karmic consequences that cloud spiritual perception. The cure for all 3 is non-resistance, faith, and surrender to divine mind. When a person stops trying to control every outcome, intuition naturally rises to the surface. Intuition always leads to the right place. Shinn closes the chapter by affirming that intuition guides a person unfailingly toward their right place, the career, relationship, home, opportunity, or path designed for them. She reminds the reader that intuition never contradicts love, peace, or harmony. It always leads upward and never harms another person. If a feeling or impulse involves fear, manipulation, or anxiety, it is not intuition. Her final message is that life becomes effortless when one learns to trust and follow their inner guidance. The game of life becomes simple, purposeful, and inspired when played with intuition as its compass. Chapter 9. Perfect Self-Expression or the Divine Design. Chapter 9 of The Game of Life and How to Play It centers on one of Florence Scovel Shinn's most powerful ideas. Every human being has a unique divine purpose, something only they can accomplish, and discovering this purpose is the key to happiness, fulfillment, and successful living. She calls this personal destiny the divine design of one's life. From the chapter's opening pages, Shinn states that there is for each man perfect self-expression. There is a place which he is to fill and no one else can fill, something which he is to do, which no one else can do. It is his destiny. This idea frames the entire chapter. Every person is born with a perfect purpose and a perfect role that only they can express. The divine design as a perfect idea. Shinn emphasizes that this destiny already exists in divine mind as a perfect, complete idea waiting for a person's recognition. She explains that the imaging faculty, the human imagination, plays a major role because it is necessary for man to see the idea before it can manifest. Thus, one's highest spiritual task is not to force life into a shape of personal desire, but to recognize and surrender to the divine design, trusting it to be far greater than anything the limited mind can plan. A person therefore should declare, "Infinite Spirit, open the way for the divine design of my life to manifest. Let the genius within me now be released. Let me see clearly the perfect plan." Shinn teaches that this perfect plan includes a balanced experience of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression, which she calls the square of life. She asserts that any life lacking one of these four pillars is out of alignment with divine intention, divine disruption, and realignment. A powerful theme in this chapter is that once someone demands their divine design, significant change may occur, and often quickly. Shinn describes that great changes may happen because many people are far from their divine purpose. She recounts the case of a woman whose entire life was shaken as though a cyclone had struck her affairs, yet these disruptions made way for new and wonderful conditions. To Shinn, this is not chaos, it is spiritual realignment. The divine design replaces old, stagnant patterns with new opportunities, relationships, and pathways that finally match one's destiny. Perfect self-expression is never labor. Shinn explains that true self-expression will never feel burdensome, exhausting, or forced. Instead, it is so absorbing and natural that it feels almost like play. She also assures that when a person follows their divine purpose, they are automatically supported by spiritual supply, because man comes into the world financed by God. Many geniuses, she says, suffer unnecessarily because they struggle for funds when they could instead release their worries and rely on the spoken word, faith, and spiritual law to unlock the supply needed for their work. She gives a memorable example. After class one day, a man gave Shinn a single penny, explaining he only had 7 cents in the world. He asked her to speak the word for his perfect self-expression and prosperity. A year later he returned, successful and happy, with a roll of money in his pocket, explaining that a position had come to him immediately after the treatment. For Shinn, this case proves that even a tiny seed of faith can begin the flow of divine supply when aligned with purpose. Self-expression comes in many forms. Shinn wants readers to understand that perfect self-expression is not only about public achievements. She writes that a woman's perfect expression may be in becoming a perfect wife, a perfect mother, a perfect homemaker, and not necessarily a career. Each person's purpose is uniquely tailored, and no role is inferior. The important thing is that the purpose be authentic, joyful, divinely inspired, and free of imitation or fear. Do not force a mental picture. One of Shinn's key warnings is against forcing a specific visual outcome. She writes, "One should not visualize or force a mental picture. Instead, a person must ask for divine revelation and receive flashes of inspiration. The correct mental picture comes through intuition, not the reasoning mind. When a true divine idea is revealed, the person feels unmistakable inner clarity and peace." This is why she writes, "The thing man seeks is seeking him. The telephone was seeking Bell. Our purpose is not invented, it calls to us." Parents should not force careers on children. Shinn strongly urges parents not to force career paths on their children. Each soul has its own divine plan, and imposing expectations can block natural self-expression. She even gives a prenatal treatment parents can speak to protect and guide the child's destiny. Let the God in this child have perfect expression. Let the divine design of his mind, body, and affairs be made manifest throughout his life. This shows Shinn's belief that spiritual alignment can begin before birth. Biblical interpretations and symbolism. Shinn interprets various biblical passages as metaphors for spiritual battles within the mind. For example, she explains, "A man's foes shall be they of his own household," as referring to one's own negative thoughts. Goliath represents mortal thinking, and David's little white stone symbolizes faith. According to Shinn, the Bible is fundamentally a book about the mind, teaching how to release the soul, subconscious mind, from bondage. Fear blocks self-expression. Fear is described as the major barrier between individuals and their perfect self-expression. She warns that many fail to use their talents because they bury them like the wicked and slothful servant in the Bible. Fear must be confronted directly. She gives multiple stories illustrating that when a person walks up to the lion facing what they fear, the obstacle usually disappears. For example, a woman afraid to walk under a ladder finally found the courage to do it, and when she returned, the ladder had vanished. Shinn writes that courage contains genius and magic. Fearlessness activates divine law, standing still and allowing God to work. Another essential law discussed is non-resistance. Quotes the biblical command, "Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord." Copyright. She gives the example of the woman who received $2,000 simply by remaining non-resistant in a situation that initially seemed unjust. Through poise and calmness, the right outcome opened the way for her. Completion in divine mind. Shinn warns that many students delay their manifestations due to an internal sense of incompletion. She offers the statement, "In divine mind there is only completion." A student who often left tasks unfinished found this habit mirrored in her outer life. Once corrected, her demonstrations manifested more easily. The importance of non-resistance, poise, and faith. Shinn emphasizes that poise is power because it allows divine energy to flow freely. Anger, fear, and resistance cloud judgment and block the manifestation of the divine design. She describes fear and worry as deadly sins because they distort mental pictures and bring about the very conditions feared. Perfect self-expression requires poise, fearlessness, non-resistance, faith, divine guidance, intuitive responsiveness. The chapter's core message. The central message of Chapter 9 is this: every person has a unique, perfect divine purpose. This purpose is encoded within them as a perfect idea. When one aligns their thoughts, faith, speech, and actions with divine mind, this perfect plan unfolds with grace, supply, joy, and harmony. The divine design is always greater than personal desire, and the universe rushes to support the individual who courageously aligns with it. Chapter 10, Denials and Affirmations. In Chapter Denials and Affirmations, Florence Scovel Shinn explains the spiritual power behind two essential tools of metaphysical practice, denials and affirmations. She argues that these tools work together to cleanse the mind of destructive beliefs and replace them with truths that align with divine law. In her view, every human's life reflects the thoughts they cultivate, and these thoughts can either imprison or liberate them. Therefore, proper use of denials and affirmations is fundamental in the game of life. Shinn introduces the subject by asserting that the mind must be cleared of wrong ideas before truth can flow freely. Denials serve this purpose by breaking down mental barriers rooted in fear, false beliefs, and negative impressions. She uses the metaphor of sweeping a room. Before new furniture can be placed, the dirt must be removed. Similarly, before affirmations can take root, the mental field must be cleansed through denials. The purpose of denials. Denials are not statements of weakness or avoidance. Instead, they are powerful declarations that dissolve appearances which contradict divine truth. Shinn highlights their spiritual authority by referencing Jesus' words, Judge not according to appearances, but judge righteous judgment. She interprets this to mean that the troubling conditions we see, lack, disease, failure, are merely appearances, not reality in divine mind. Denials neutralize these illusions. One of her students, for example, struggled with a chronic sense of financial burden. Shinn instructed her to declare, "There is no lack, there is no limitation." By repeatedly denying the power of appearances, the student eventually broke through the fear that had been shaping her conditions. Shinn notes that denials break the hypnotic spell of negative thought patterns that people unconsciously carry. Shinn also emphasizes that denials do not deny the existence of a condition, but deny its power. In her philosophy, a person does not ignore a problem. Rather, they remove its authority over their consciousness. She states that denials must be strong, calm, and spoken with conviction, not panicked or desperate. Affirmations, planting the seed of truth. After the mental clearing done by denials, affirmations plant new spiritual seeds. Shinn defines affirmations as statements of truth aligned with divine law, truths that already exist spiritually and must simply be spoken into visibility. She emphasizes that affirmations should always be positive, clear, and expressed in the present tense, such as, "I have perfect health. I am divinely protected. Infinite supply flows to me freely." She warns against affirmations that express longing or future tense desire. For example, saying, "I will be rich someday," only keeps richness at a distance. The proper spiritual affirmation declares that the good is already present. One student tried a traditional affirmation, "I am prosperous," but resented it because it felt untrue. Shinn advised her to use the softer phrasing, "God is my supply." This allowed the student to bypass resistance by focusing on divine truth rather than personal struggle. Soon, she began to see improvements in her finances. Shinn uses this to highlight that affirmations must ring true to a person's consciousness, otherwise they may cause inner conflict instead of empowerment. Why denials and affirmations must work together. Shinn insists that one without the other is incomplete. Denials clear the soil, affirmations plant the seed. Neglecting either step results in limited transformation. She describes the mind as a magnetic field that must be purified before positive thought can attract good. A mind full of fear or resentment might attempt affirmations, but the underlying negative patterns neutralize their power. Without denials, affirmations struggle to take root. Conversely, a mind full of denials, but without affirmations, becomes empty and directionless, like clearing a field but planting nothing. Shinn compares the two to inhaling and exhaling. Both are necessary for spiritual respiration. Examples of transformation through denials and affirmations. One of the chapter's key strengths is the abundance of examples illustrating how individuals change their lives using these methods. In one story, a woman facing a threatening lawsuit approached Shinn for help. Shinn instructed her to declare, "There is no situation that cannot be resolved by divine love." The woman followed the practice faithfully and affirmed that right action was taking place. Eventually, the entire legal threat dissolved harmoniously. Shinn uses this to demonstrate how denials and affirmations release fear-based outcomes and invite divine order. Another example features a woman suffering from persistent health troubles due to long-held guilt and resentment. Shinn encouraged her to deny the power of these emotional states and affirm perfect health. The woman repeatedly declared, "Every cell in my body radiates light." Over time, she recovered physically and emotionally. Shinn treats these stories not as miracles, but as the natural results of aligning thought with spiritual truth. Affirmations as commands to the subconscious. Shinn teaches that affirmations speak directly to the subconscious mind, which she views as extremely literal. Whatever is impressed upon this deeper layer of mind eventually becomes physical reality. Therefore, affirmations must be spoken with clarity, consistency, and emotional conviction. She warns that careless speech becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. Statements like, "I always get sick during winter," or "money never stays with me," act as negative affirmations, shaping circumstances accordingly. People must therefore guard their words as carefully as they guard their possessions. She quotes Proverbs, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." This supports her teaching that speech is a creative force. The role of faith. Shinn stresses that neither denials nor affirmations work mechanically. They require faith. Yet, she adds that faith need not be perfect. Even a small amount of trust, faith, as a grain of mustard seed, can begin the process of spiritual transformation. Faith activates affirmations by opening a channel through which divine power can flow. Where fear contracts, faith expands. When affirmations are spoken with faith, they penetrate the subconscious more deeply and manifest more quickly. Repetition and emotional alignment. Shinn encourages repeated use of affirmations, not out of desperation, but as gentle training of the mind. Repetition restructures mental patterns, dissolves old habits, and imprints truth more deeply. However, she warns against mechanical repetition with no emotional engagement. The words must be spoken with a feeling of truth, even if only faintly felt at first. The combination of emotional acceptance and repeated statements builds momentum, eventually rewriting the inner script by which a person lives. Overcoming resistance. Shinn acknowledges that many people feel resistance to affirmations because their current reality contradicts the statement. For instance, someone in financial difficulty may feel uncomfortable affirming abundance. She advises starting with broader, less personally charged statements such as, "God is my unfailing supply." With persistence, the emotional resistance weakens, and the person can adopt more direct affirmations. She also reminds the reader that resistance often signals that an old belief is being dismantled. Instead of discouragement, this should be taken as progress. Denials of fear and evil. A major theme of the chapter is the denial of fear. Shinn explains that fear is the root cause of most negative conditions and must be dissolved for spiritual progress. She instructs people to deny fear's authority by declaring, "Fear is a false appearance. It has no power." This denial clears the mind for affirmations of protection, courage, and strength. Likewise, evil circumstances or negative situations must be denied as having power over one's life. To Shinn, all evil is unreal in the sense that it has no foundation in divine truth. Final message of the chapter. Shinn concludes that denials and affirmations give individuals complete spiritual control over their circumstances. They allow people to cooperate consciously with divine law. By denying whatever contradicts truth and affirming whatever aligns with it, a person becomes a deliberate creator of their own experience. She urges the reader to practice these tools daily, speak truth boldly, and trust the invisible laws of the universe. When denials clear the mind and affirmations plant the seed of truth, life begins to unfold with harmony, ease, and spiritual precision. Thank you for watching this audiobook on 360 Book Wisdom. If these teachings added value to your life, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful wisdom and life-changing books.